The fourth racketeering scheme that I caught is misapplying payments. So this happened to us 3 different times where the Franchise Tax Board took a payment that we made that was designated for a particular year, and they applied it to a previous year that was already closed and zeroed out. And they allegedly applied the money to a bill, but those bills never existed. And I have asked for the documentation that these bills existed in the court cases that I've have pending against the Franchise Tax Board, and they have refused to provide the documentation that these bills were in fact real bills. So anyway, they applied the money to a previous tax years, and then a few months later, you get a check in the mail from the state of California. And you don't know what the check is for, it just says state of California. And maybe you could figure out what it was if the amount of money matched what you had mailed in. But oftentimes they add some interest. So it's not quite the same dollar amount. There's a few bucks extra on there. Like for us, one of our payments was $9,000, but our refund check was like $9,048. So I had no idea what $9,048 would be months down the road. One of the other payments that we had sent to Franchise Tax Board was for $3,500, and they split that payment up over 3 different years and sent 3 refunds. So, and they sent them 3 months apart. So I had no clue what these 3 random dollar amounts were. I mean, they were weird dollar amounts too. That first payment from 2008, that's what happened. They misapplied it to a previous tax year. And they had sent us a refund on it. So there was that one from 2008 that I mentioned, and then 2 from tax year 2010 that came to light in 2012. Continuing on, or maybe I should say going back to the misapplied payment scheme. So they misapply the payment to a previous year. They send you a refund months later. The dollar amounts don't match. The check just says state of California. You have no idea what it's for. You file your taxes, and then 2 years later, you get a notice in the mail saying you have underpaid your tax liability. You reported that you paid X amount of dollars, and we only received this amount of money from you. You now owe us the missing payment amount plus late fees, penalties, and interest. And it does take them 2 years to get back to you. So, I mean, a lot of penalties and interest have, late fee, or yeah, interest and fees have accrued. So you call in, if you can get through, since only 57% of calls get through, and they say, okay, you need to send us a copy of the check, and then so you have to fax in a copy of the check or upload it to my FTB or mail it in, and then call them back after the processing time, so a week or a month, depending on which way you sent it. And then when you call back, they say, oh yeah, you remember that check from California, the state of California that you got on X date? That was this payment. It was accidentally misapplied and refunded to you. So, but you're still on the hook for all that money, for the late fees and penalties and interest. So it was their mistake, but they make you pay late fees, penalties, and interest for their mistake. So twice I refused to pay the penalties. So one was the 2008 payment that I mentioned, that was for $1,000. And then in 2010, the 2 payments, the $9,000 and the $3,500 payment. I refused to pay the penalties, and I demanded that I repay the money and they backdate it and remove the penalties. Well, in both, so we didn't redo the $3,500 payment because we didn't need to. We'd already paid enough with the $9,000. But the $1,000 payment and the $9,000 payment had both been repaid, and they were supposed to be backdated. But instead of backdating them, the money vanished, like vanished. So it took the Franchise Tax Board 7 months to locate that money, and they refused to tell me what they did to it. I've requested documentation in the court case that's pending as to where that $9,000 went, and they will not tell me. The other payment, the one from tax year 2008 for $1,000, that one vanished for 7 years. And it took State Controller Betty Yee's office personally intervening on our behalf to get FTB to locate the money. So in both cases, the Franchise Tax Board's accounting ledgers say that both those payments were refunded to us again, but they hadn't been refunded to us. So that means that there's something wonky going on with their accounting ledgers that they are refusing to disclose to me. So yeah, there's something really suspicious going on. And hopefully, I filed a motion to compel with the judge in the case that we have pending against the Franchise Tax Board, and hopefully the judge will grant my motion and order them to turn over the documentation to show what happened to that money. And, like we find out once and for all what the full extent of the scheme really is.